Everyone is losing their mind over AGI. One camp says it's coming next year, another says it's physically impossible, and here's what nobody is saying out loud. Both sides have real evidence. Both sides are using real data, and both sides are missing the same critical thing. Today I'm breaking down the actual structural debate that will determine whether AI transforms everything in the next 5 years or slams into a wall nobody saw coming. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you'll never look at AI hype the same way again. There are two camps, and they couldn't be more different. Camp 1, the pro AGI believers. Their core driver, empirical software trends and scaling laws. Their mechanism, recursive self-improvement and algorithmic breakthroughs. Their worldview, intelligence is a software problem bound by exponential curves. You just keep scaling, and AGI becomes inevitable. Camp 2, the constrained reality camp. Their core driver, the immutable laws of physics and capitalist economics. Their mechanism, hardware memory bottlenecks and thermodynamic limits. Their worldview, intelligence is a physical process bound by resource realities, and no amount of clever software escapes that. Same world, completely opposite conclusions. So let's actually follow both arguments to their logical end. Before we go deeper, if you're watching this and thinking, I want to actually implement AI automation like this in my business, then AI Force Multipliers is exactly where you need to be. Here's what makes this different. I'm not a guru who watched some YouTube videos and built a course. I have a published research background in clinical neuroscience. I've consulted for enterprise clients whose customers include 80 of the Fortune 100, and I've done SEO strategy for an ex-Google engineer. That analytical depth is what you get inside, not theory, not fluff, the actual workflows and systems that move the needle. We cover AI automation, Claude skill systems, GEO and AI search optimization, my custom Power Page process, which grew one client 258%, the full stack. Members are saving 10 to 20 hours a week and showing up in AI search where their competitors are invisible. One member even made over $1,000 from one recommendation. Link is in the description and pinned in the comments. Go check it out. The pro AGI argument isn't speculation, it's extrapolation from a track record of wins. Look at the arc. From the first neural networks in the 50s, to expert systems, to the internet era, to deep learning, to transformers, to GPT-4, to multimodal models, to autonomous self-improvement, every cycle gets shorter. Every leap gets bigger. The argument is straightforward. The massive empirical successes of the last 5 years were driven by exponential feedback loops, and if those loops hold, AGI isn't a question of if, it's a question of when. The key assumption that the exponential scaling laws of the past 5 years will continue indefinitely. That's the bet, and it's a big one. Here's the actual engine behind the pro AGI thesis, and it's genuinely compelling. It works in 3 steps. Step 1, AI automates AI research and development. Step 2, those systems start contributing to their own source code and algorithmic design. Step 3, algorithmic efficiency compounds autonomously. The result? A claimed 50x research multiplier. When AI designs AI, progress ceases to be linear. You compress years of human research into weeks. The feedback loop accelerates itself. This isn't science fiction. AI is already writing code, proposing architecture changes, and accelerating its own training pipelines. The question is whether that loop becomes truly self-sustaining or hits a ceiling. Here's what makes the pro-AGI argument so hard to dismiss. Their formula requires no magic, no secret ingredient, no paradigm shift, massive compute scaling, plus vast data assimilation, plus high-dimensional neuralese, meaning AI thinking in vector spaces far beyond human language, equals superhuman intelligence. Proponents argue there is no deep mystery standing between current models and AGI. Human language itself is the bottleneck. Simply scaling current architectures until they can operate and think efficiently in higher dimensional space is the only requirement. No grand discovery, just scale. The uncomfortable part, they might be right. And here's what gives this camp real credibility. They're not just theorizing, they have receipts. They successfully predicted inference scaling before mainstream consensus even knew it was possible. They forecasted training runs exceeding $100 million before capital markets normalized that kind of spend. They anticipated chain of thought reasoning as a core unlock for complex problem solving before it existed as a product. This camp has consistently and accurately forecasted previously unthinkable milestones well before they became reality. Their extrapolations aren't rooted in philosophy. They're rooted in a pattern of being right when everyone else said it was impossible. That's a hard track record to argue with. But here's where it gets interesting, because the skeptical camp isn't arguing against ambition. They're arguing against physics. The anti-AGI argument dismisses pure extrapolation as philosophical fantasy, grounded in thermodynamics, hardware memory allocation, and market economics. This camp asserts that intelligence is fundamentally constrained by physical boundaries. Their core claim, physical reality cannot simply be bypassed by writing better software. It doesn't matter how good your algorithm is. At some point, data has to physically move across chips. Heat has to be dissipated. Capital has to be justified. Software can't rewrite the laws of thermodynamics. Here's the specific mechanism, and it's not abstract. Computation relies on physically moving data across chips, and we are hitting a hard physical wall where memory access creates severe throughput bottlenecks. This is called the memory wall. The key insight from researcher Tim Detmers: linear progress now requires exponential resources. Modern GPUs have essentially maxed out their performance per cost ratio. The industry has been surviving on a series of one-off hardware tricks, architectural shortcuts, and manufacturing innovations that delivered massive gains. But those tricks are a finite resource. They will be exhausted. The golden era of cheap capability gains may already be ending. Now here's the argument that nobody in the hype cycle wants to talk about. Dr. Ollie Sharp's insight: true AGI requires open-ended, human-like continuous learning, not static inference, continuous adaptation, learning that never stops. Current AI economics work because you train once and deploy everywhere. Training is expensive, inference is cheap. That's why the business model scales. But the moment you move to true continuous lifetime learning, training costs don't stop at deployment. They run forever, across every deployed instance, for every user, at every moment. The cost structure of mass deployment completely collapses. Look at the charts side by side. Current AI, one sharp training spike, then flat inference costs. True AGI, a permanent, enormous compute expense that never ends. The economics are broken, and no amount of investment solves a structurally broken cost model. And then there's the argument that cuts deepest of all, the market incentive problem. Organizations want controllable tools that solve specific tasks, high predictability, high control, defined ROI. That's what they'll fund, that's what they'll deploy, that's what they'll pay for. There is zero return on investment for an enterprise to spend trillions creating an uncontrollable agent that might develop its own preferences, demand rights, or refuse work. The market actively selects against AGI. Think about that. The entities with the capital to build superintelligence, corporations, governments, military, fundamentally do not want a free agent. They want a tool. And tools, by definition, are not AGI. The incentive structure of capitalism itself may be AGI's biggest obstacle. So let's put both sides side by side, because this is where the real clarity lives. Core foundation: empirical software trends versus the immutable laws of physics. Growth model: exponential feedback loops versus exhaustible one-off hardware tricks. Economic assumption: inference gets cheaper at scale versus lifetime learning is prohibitively expensive. Nature of the product: autonomous superintelligence versus a predictable task solver. Primary hurdle: human language bottlenecks versus thermodynamic memory allocation. These aren't just different predictions. They're different worldviews about the fundamental nature of intelligence itself. One side says intelligence is computation, the other says intelligence is physics. And that brings us to the only question that actually matters. Can AI systems fundamentally rewrite how computation is achieved and deployed? If yes, algorithmic breakthroughs bypass energy constraints. The pro AGI exponential curves hold. Superintelligence arrives on schedule. If no, thermodynamics and market economics cannot be coded away. The skeptical argument becomes practically unbreakable. Here's where I land. The pro AGI camp is right about the direction. The trajectory of AI capability is real, it's documented, and it consistently surprises skeptics. But the anti AGI camp is right about the friction. Every step is getting more expensive. The memory wall is physical. The lifetime learning economics are broken, and the market's incentive structure actively selects against building something it cannot control. What does that mean for you right now? The people winning with AI today are not waiting for superintelligence. They are deploying specific, focused, controllable AI systems and stacking wins every single day. Momentum doesn't come from predicting timelines. It comes from using what works today. Tell me in the comments, which camp do you land in? Exponential growth wins or physical reality wins? I read every reply. If this broke down something you hadn't seen framed this way before, hit like. It helps more people find this channel. And if you want frameworks for actually building with AI, not just debating it, subscribe. That's exactly what we do here. See you in the next one.